Hello, and welcome back to Emotionally Unavailable. I'm your host, Malisa Hepner. Please excuse my voice. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's just because I talked a lot last night and I was yelling because my oldest son walked for his associates yesterday and we were celebrating. But we were in kind of a loud place. I'm sorry, I have a hair stuck to my face somewhere. We were in kind of a loud place and I drank for the first time in forever, so I'm also a little hungover. So fun times. Okay, so today I think I'll start with a grief update. For those of you, if this is your first episode, I lost my son Jake, who was 18 years old, in December to a synthetic opioid overdose. It was a drug called cyclorphine. It is 10 times more deadly than fentanyl. Anyway, so it's graduation season, and he had just graduated the May before. The dread of graduation season was a lot worse than actual graduation season. And I'm learning that to be the case for most things. And so I just understand that dread is fear, and I'm afraid it's going to hurt. So I've gotten pretty good at managing dread, I feel like. I just said, hey, right now I'm okay. If I get to his graduation and I'm not okay, that will be different and I will deal with that. My nephew's was particularly difficult because he was only 3 weeks younger than Jake. And, at points off and on, they had been pretty close. And so I, of course, thought about Jake the whole time, and Jake would have been there cheering. And I was also in a weird position to not know if I should be like, Jake is cheering for you. Like, I'm just wondering about how much I should or shouldn't say that to people. Like, if it's one of his best friends, I feel like totally comfortable being like, oh my God, Jake would be so happy about this. But I also know how they process their grief because we talk a lot, just like with my family here, my little close family. So anyway, that's been interesting to try to figure out. And then actually, Mother's Day grief is kind of when I started to notice things around my perception of boundaries that led to what I want to talk about today. Because through grief, I have had to really take inventory of what lights me up, what kind of conversations I want to have, who I want to be around. I really do have to have pretty firm boundaries. Again, my energy levels, they're just not like 100%. And honestly, going to all these graduations is exhausting, and I'm having to be very intentional about making sure I'm resting afterwards and just like taking care of myself because it's a lot. And so, yeah, I've been doing that. It does make grief a little harder because when I'm really tired, I'm more emotional and less logical, which isn't a bad thing. But it just makes it a little tougher, I think. So I'm just making sure I'm guarding my energy levels, making sure I'm replenishing myself whenever I do exert a lot of energy. But just overall, I've really had to use good boundaries throughout this 5 months because I get overwhelmed really easily and very upset from that overwhelm, just very flooded and triggered so I just have to be really careful and do what I feel is best for me. So that's really it for grief, I think. It's been pretty normal. I don't know. I guess that's kind of it for grief this week. But I am going to talk about boundaries, and this is a really big one for grievers because okay, so I'll just jump right in. So the thing is that yes, I've known for quite some time that boundaries really are about how we are going to move in the world. It's not about asking or telling other people how to show up in your world. I think it was easy for me to see that in some ways, and then in other ways it's been tricky, kind of like perfectionism is tricky. So this really became like really blatantly aware of this on Mother's Day because I was getting communication and was overwhelmed because it was such a heavy day. Like I just started noticing like I just didn't really want to talk to people. But the story that would like be there right away is like, oh, how dare they message me on my first Mother's Day without Jake about this, which isn't fair. And I'm not saying that it is. Like, that's what made me examine the whole thing, because I mean, that's kind of what my MO has always been, is just like react in anger, feel betrayed, feel neglected in these really kind of innocuous moments. So, it wasn't until like a really strong thought like that came up and I was like, okay, you're feeling resentful, which means you either have or are about to self abandon. What do you need? Not what do you want them to do? What do you need? You need to not respond. Like, it doesn't really fucking matter if they message you or don't message you. What you do is what matters. Why do you feel this pressure to respond when you don't want to? Oh, well, I don't want them to feel like I don't care or that I'm ungrateful for even an expression of love. And the thing about Mother's Day was it was like what seems to be typical through this whole grieving thing is there was no like right thing anyone could say. Everything was just agitating my spirit. And that to me is just something I've learned that's just what grief looks like for me on some days, is that my spirit gonna be agitated really easily. So that's all it was. And I just decided, okay, well, I don't have to respond. Like, it, I don't need to overanalyze what they said, overanalyze me not responding. I can just choose to go, and I'm not responding. Which sounds so simple, but it really, a switch flipped, I think, in that where it was like the idea and understanding of boundaries was finally being integrated is what it felt like, because I've preached about boundaries for so long. Like, especially like if you listen to Unquiet Soul with me and Angie, like that's one big thing we talk about is boundaries. And so it was just kind of neat to like see it integrated and be like, oh, this is the opportunity to move a different way. And I think when we hear phrases like set a boundary, and yes, it can be a lot of different things. Like, there are lots of ways to set a boundary, but these like little emotional boundaries, because like I know people who get really upset. Like, I had a friend whose family member was in the hospital and they didn't want to go visit, like, they're not particularly close to the family member. It felt very taxing to go visit the family member, and we're being asked to go visit the family member. And all this anger was directed at them for asking to come visit in the hospital. I understand that because I used to do the exact same thing. Whenever it could just be, well, what's happening is I don't wanna hold the boundary. I don't wanna say no because that doesn't feel safe. And when I don't feel safe, agitation, my nervous system's dysregulated, because if I say no, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. Maybe it could, but I'm just learning to not even like go there and just think, I mean, it could, but I don't wanna go, so I'm not going. And then I know someone who has really tried to have a conversation with her elder Gen X family, Gen X and Boomer family, about the types of conversations that she wants to engage in. And like, don't text me talking about small talk, the weather, like, how are you? Like, have a good day, things like that. Like, she just doesn't prefer to receive communication like that, because there's a lot of nuance in there. There's a lot that, like, I'm not saying, obviously, but she gets so mad every time they text. And I'm like, and I hear you, but your job is just to not respond. Why are you giving this the energy of being pissed that they moved a certain way when it's just your responsibility to move however you want to move? So I think this is something that used to happen a lot to me. Like, I've said 1,000 times on here, I don't like unannounced visitors. I really don't like people coming over at all. Like, that's not, I'm better about it now, but like the scenarios I'm thinking of, I really didn't want them to come over because I'd have to hurry and clean my house, because I felt like it had to look perfect if people were coming over, and I just didn't want to go through that, right? So if someone asked, I'm now instantly pissed that they asked. And then instead of just being like, no, because I get why we have trouble saying no to certain people. The people I was afraid to say no to certainly made me a villain in their story every time I did say no. And I didn't want all the fallout. I'm a lot more capable of dealing with the fallout. Like, I just won't be around for the fallout either because it's not, I don't care. I'm just going to say no, you know? But that was something that I really struggled with. And then even just pretty like innocent things like asking, to use my pool or something like that. it- it- People would ask me for things that I wanted to say no to, but felt too unsafe to say no to. So I'm triggered and I'm upset. And now I'm bitching about this person in this scenario to like maybe another friend. And they're not understanding why I'm so upset because they can't feel what it feels like to be so scared to say no about this particular thing. So now they're not on my side. So I'm feeling betrayed. I'm feeling neglected. I'm feeling abandoned. Like all these things, all because like it's so fucking hard to say no. And I would just martyr myself to just confirm all those beliefs, you know? So, yeah, I'm really pretty excited to have like seen to have gotten more awareness because we always talk about awareness is so key. It's the first thing. And I cannot believe how many times that I wasn't even noticing that that's what I was feeling is fear to hold a boundary and allowing so much energy to be expended intellectualizing and analyzing other people's behavior, also that I didn't have to say no to something. It was very bizarre, but I'm really glad that I saw it. And so, what I'm going to do, I know other people struggle with this stuff too. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop an audio about this. And I would have already, but I don't know what to title it. Like, come here when I guess I'll say when you need help holding a boundary. Um, and maybe I'll make a whole series of boundary audios, but I want to just like be there and help you co-regulate through that and remind you, talk you through it. And in essence, it's the same things I've been having to say to myself for the last week. I'm grateful when I learn something like this. So I'm excited because, and let me just say this. Maybe if you're somebody who's still really struggling with boundaries or saying no in general, I guess it probably sounds a little assy of me to be like, I'm just not worrying about it anymore. I get it. I have done a lot of work to quiet a lot of internal noise that makes it much easier for me to just lay a phone down and go, and I don't have to respond. Or I can say no to you coming to my house, or I can say no to giving you a ride. And it's not because I don't still deal with that internal icky stuff when I do, but I kind of know what to do with that. So I think that's what I'll include in the audio is just kind of helping you through that because, yeah, I mean, I'm having to talk myself through that stuff all the time. And I think it's normal. And so I want to be there to help you through that too. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and if I didn't mention it, this is a tier on my Patreon. It's a level of support. I am building out an audio library right now. I've asked my audience that's joined so far to please be patient. I don't want to put shit in there just for the sake of having shit in there. I want it to be organic. I want it to be authentic. And as I'm having to soothe myself through an issue, I'm adding stuff on there. I have a couple of things that I want to put in there in the next week. Yeah. So if you haven't subscribed to the Patreon, you should. Again, it's a growing library of resources that I'm putting a lot of intention and thought behind and not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Um, yeah, so I guess that's kind of it for me. I don't know. I think that's it. I love you guys. I appreciate you being here and interact, come comment on the Spotify or the Apple and tell me what you think about boundaries or on the YouTube. Interact. For one, it really does help push my stuff out to more people. Um, it also, helps. The more interaction you get, the better your ranking becomes. And, I'm pushing for that top 3%. I'm in the top 5% right now. So I'm pushing for that top 3. And also, I really do want an engaged audience. I would love to be engaging with you all more. So, yeah, proud of my child for getting one step of his education done. I'd be proud anyway, because he made it through some really tough 5 months with some real PTSD. So, proud of all you guys too for making it through your shit. Proud of me. Grateful for this platform and all that we're doing together. And yeah, I guess that's it. See you next time. Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share. Emotionally